Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I thank you again for joining us for another iSyllabus live with our beloved Sheikh Amar Jamil. Sheikh Amar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, Sheikh, how are you? You well?
Alhamdulillah, I am fine.
Good to see you again. Is that it just started now?
No, that's fine on you. Go. Keep
All
Tajweed.
right, okay. Sheikh, so alhamdulillah, to our viewers, the purpose of today's YouTube Live is for the topic of Tajweed. And many of you, inshallah, will have seen our poster, which is Tajweed Tips. And we'll get on to exactly what the upcoming course that Sheikh Amar, inshallah, is about to embark upon is about and the details of that. But before we get into any of that, inshallah, we hope to have a brief discussion, just a little bit about Quran itself and our relationship with the Quran. Sheikh, I was thinking just before we came on,
Mhm.
I managed to get to the gym after work today, and probably because the sun was out and I definitely felt like going for a run, getting myself into some sort of activity. Um, Normally, I'm half depressed leaving work. The clouds are there. You don't feel like doing anything. And I wasn't clearly the
Right.
only one with that mindset because people were out jogging, people were in the gym, people were active. And subhanAllah, I thought that's exactly what the month of Ramadan is like when it comes to the Quran.
Mm.
Automatically, even all year round, when we don't necessarily feel that we are motivated to engage with the Quran, uh, that month when it comes along, it's like there's a button that just hits and automatically we begin to engage with the Quran. And subhanAllah, the month is gone, it's been and gone. And for many of us, we would have no doubt engaged with it far more than what we usually do. But now that the month is gone, the question is just how important is it that we continue to engage all year round and stay just as enthusiastic with the Quran the way in which we did in the month of Ramadan?
Yeah, that's a good question. And as you say that when Ramadan comes, we just kind of almost like going to sixth gear.
Mm.
We start going to the mosque. I'm sure we're not frequenting the mosque as much as we were in Ramadan. I know that's true for me. I know it's true for many people. It's just the way it is. I always think of Ramadan a bit like if you go to Umrah. If you go to Umrah, you're on a high,
Mm.
and then when you come back, you kind of slowly wears off,
Yeah.
and then you kind of go back to your daily life. But what Umrah does is it just, for 2 weeks or whatever time you're there, you're just engaging in ibadah. So that habit, you might obviously not keep up exactly what you're doing there, but you will hopefully have had a boost and you're a wee bit better than you were before. So
Mm.
Ramadan is that kind of thing. It's there to kind of just boost us, and it's important that once we come out of Ramadan, we kind of keep some of that practice going. I mean, it's unrealistic to expect us to be like that all year round.
Mm.
And that's actually one of the reasons we have the six fasts of Shawwal, because the wisdom behind it is that it's almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is letting us out of Ramadan gently. So He
Mm.
gives us the opportunity to keep connected to the month by fasting a few days this month, but it's obviously not obligatory.
Yeah.
And another great thing about Ramadan is the amount of Quran that we read is
Mm.
much more than the rest of the year, but it's very important that we keep some type of connection all year round. And
Mm.
so just because we can't do as much as we can in Ramadan, we
Yeah.
need to do a daily amount, which is a consistent amount, because the consistency is actually the secret. It's not doing um, you know, one-offs or big things. It's actually the things we do on a daily basis that count the most
Mm.
and have actually the most impact on a person spiritually as well. The Prophet ﷺ said, Habul A'mali, the best of all actions, the most beloved of all actions,
Mm.
to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are those adwamuha wa inqal, the ones that are done consistently, even if they're small.
Mm.
So if you read 5 minutes of Quran every day, but you
Yeah.
do it every day, you do it every day, and maybe on a Friday you read Surah Kahf, and some days you read a bit more, but every day you don't read any less than 5 minutes.
Mm.
That's much better than reading 3 hours once a week. So to do it 5 minutes every single day is much, much healthier, much better. It's like it's like that injection, daily injection, keeping yourself going, rather than just once a week and then it dwindles off. So
Mm.
I mean, Ramadan is gone. Inshallah, if Allah gives us life, it'll come back. But before then, we want to keep connected to the Quran.
Mm.
As a minimum, read something of the Quran. I once gave a talk at one of the Khatam al-Qurans, and I actually just said, look, because there are people that will just put the Quran away and they will not look at it um, for vast periods of time. They'll put it on the top shelf. And I said, look, all I want everyone to do is to make a commitment that we will open the Quran. That's it, right? Every single day, no matter what happens, you're busy, you're not busy, you're just going to open it. That's it. Open it and read whatever you can, even if you just read one line, two lines. For some people, that is more than what they were doing. So
Yeah.
the idea is that keep connected to the book, even if it's a small amount, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it may be, but on a daily basis, you
Mm.
are opening it at least and reading something from it.
Okay. I mean, I think that's quite clear, is maintain some sort of, and the thing is, everybody's going to be at their own level, right? There'll be
Yep.
people that come out of Ramadan that were already frequenting one supara, for example, a day or every couple of days. And then, as you say, there's going to be people who are reading a few lines, and that's fine. The key is really consistency with everyone. Sheikh, some people question whether they should be opening the Quran and keeping this relationship, reading the Arabic, but then trying to read translation. Is there anything to note at this stage just about whether we should be trying to engage with translation just as much as Arabic, or would you have any thoughts on that?
I think we should do both because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Do you not contemplate or ponder over the Quran? You can't ponder if you don't know what you're reading. So there's one thing which is actual tilawa, which is recitation, which has got its
Mm.
own merit.
Yeah.
It's got its own spiritual benefit. But then there is another dimension to that, which is contemplating, thinking,
Mm.
actually asking yourself, what is God saying to me? What, because the book is a book of guidance.
Mm.
It's there to guide us. This is described to us in the first line of Surah Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is a guidance for the people of taqwa. So the purpose of the book is to guide. So it will guide you if you look for guidance, if you open it and you look for guidance. And I don't know if you've ever tried this, but I've sometimes tried it. I've just opened it randomly and just read, and sometimes it's just like, oh my God, it's made me think, or like, it's connected to something that was maybe happening in my life or something. But I'm not saying that that's something. It's just something I've done on no basis to prove what I'm doing. But I'm just giving the idea that it will guide you if you look for
Mm.
guidance. So yes, read it because that in itself will give you reward, but also don't forget to contemplate because it is a book of guidance. It's not just to be read without.
Mm. No doubt. I think I was a bit freaked out about what page I landed on and whether it was very relevant to a situation.
Mm.
So almost spookily, but whether that was anything, I don't know. Okay, Sheikh, for our viewers, then, inshallah, our poster that you will have seen is Ramadan tips. And what, inshallah, the upcoming course is going to be focusing on is the art of recitation. And we're talking about this word called Tajweed, which Sheikh has mentioned now a couple of times. And we're going to go on to, inshallah, explain what we mean by tajweed, what we're talking about when we say tajweed, and just exactly what it is that we're referring to. Now, the art of recitation, tajweed rules explained for all of us to improve our recitation is essentially what, inshallah, this course is going to entail. Before I get Sheikh to comment further about that and dive a little bit more into the course, I just want to mention at this stage that the course itself, inshallah, is going to run over 3 sessions. The first session will be Saturday, the 11th of May, where sessions 1 and 2 will be covered. Then we'll go on to Saturday, the 18th of May, sessions 3 and 4 will be covered. And then the final session will be on Saturday, the 25th of May. And the timing for the course, inshallah, will be from 11 a.m. until 1:15 on each occasion. And the cost for it is £39 if you catch the early bird fee. Otherwise, it'll go to £49. So please go onto the website, www.isyllabus.org, where you'll be able to sign up, inshallah, for the course and spread it with loved ones, spread it with family. Remember, if you're dragging someone else along with you, then inshallah you will also be gaining the reward of everything that they take away from the course, inshallah. Sheikh, Tajweed tips. We're talking about this word Tajweed quite often, and we're going to come on to that. But in fact, that might just be a good starting point. What do we mean when we're saying Tajweed?
Okay. So, I mean, just to add on what you're saying, the other thing that we're going to be doing in the course is anyone who does the course, they'll be able to read their Surah Fatiha.
Mm.
We will correct the Surah Fatiha for them. So it gives them an idea of what are the kind of mistakes they're making, where they need to kind of work on. So it gives them a kind of benchmark of where they are with their Tajweed skills, and they can
Excellent.
inshallah work from there.
Great.
So Tajweed, basically, I mean, the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. At that time, even if you look at the actual initial Mus'haf, the Mus'haf is the written word, so the Quran written form, the book form. If you look at the early ones, they didn't have any dots, they didn't have any zabar, zirs, fathad, kasras, right? None of that because they didn't need it. They
Mm.
were able to read it without that. When the Ummah starts to expand and now you're going into non-Arab lands, you're getting further and further away from Medina. This is where scholars, responded to their time and said, look, now we need to add these dots because people are starting to make mistakes, and these things were added at a later stage. So the way we have the Mus'haf right now is not actually the way it was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. This was added to facilitate us to be able to recite properly. Um, so the whole purpose of those dots and the purpose of those what's called harakat, the fatha damma, the zabar zirs, is
Yeah.
to enable us to recite the Quran the way the Quran was recited by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's the whole aim
Mm.
of this course or any kind of course in Tajweed. Tajweed itself basically means it means to beautify your voice. So, but in link, what we mean by it is that to be able to read every letter from its proper place and give its full due.
Mm.
So, and then there's rules. Sometimes you have to elongate, sometimes you have to
Mm.
elongate a lot. And you hear this with qaris, isn't it? Sometimes they elongate,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't. So when do you elongate? When don't you elongate? When do you stop? When you don't stop?
Mm.
How is it? How is it? How do you pronounce the word properly? Because if you get it wrong, it changes the meaning.
Mm.
I'll give you an example. Um, the word qalb with a qaf means heart, right? So qaf, it comes from the back of the
Yeah.
right back, right? Qaf, right? It's basically where your the fleshy bit of your throat is kind of coming from your qaf, right? Qaf.
Mhm.
Right in front of it is kaf, right? It's kaf. So qaf is the one with the two dots.
Yep.
So you say qalb, right? But if I move my tongue slightly forward, I say kalb.
Yep.
Now, the difference in meaning is qalb means heart, kalb means dog,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So, if you don't get your qaf and
Big
kaf
difference.
right,
Yeah.
you're changing it. So another one is, you probably know, as Desis, we're good at this one, is thumma, right?
Yeah.
Thumma, people read it summa,
Yeah.
right? Summa. So they're reading the tha as if it's a scene,
Yeah.
and it can change your meaning. So thumma means then.
Mm.
Sum actually means poison, right? So you're changing meanings.
Mm.
So you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful with how you and then alladhina, and people say allazina.
Yeah.
Zalimin, which means oppressors. Zalimin, we may change it to Zalimin. So basically helping people identify, especially these ones which are really close together, like the
Mm.
difference between sod and seen, right?
Mm.
Because they're very close. So explaining to people, look, how do you differentiate between those two letters? How do you differentiate
Yeah.
between the qaf and the kaf? So that's quite important to understand the difference between the letters, because they're sometimes the tongue is actually just you're just moving it slightly and it gives you a
Mhm.
different letter. So
Right.
that and then those letters have different attributes. Some are heavy letters, some are light letters, etc. There's some that come from the nose,
Yeah.
some that you're supposed to allow air to come out,
Mm.
right? Like tha, tha. If you put a hand, tha. I can feel some air, tha. So explaining all those kind of letters, so
Mm.
to ensure that they're actually reading the Quran and not actually changing the meaning, especially sometimes you can really change it a lot from what the original meaning is. And then going on to like when you elongate
Yeah.
and all these other rules. And the thing is, you can make it quite technical. So
Mm.
it has become a technical science. Obviously, it wasn't like that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. This
Mm.
was then codified by scholars, rules put in to make it easier.
Yeah.
But it can become quite technical. If you pick up a book on Tajweed, it can feel a bit overwhelming. It can feel
Mm.
a bit technical. What I'm hoping to do is try to make it as simple as possible. So I don't want to overcomplicate
Yeah.
the overcomplicate it than I have to, because there's a lot of Arabic terms that you
Mm.
don't need the Arabic terms. That's
Mm.
just there to study it. But if you
Yeah.
can recite properly, that's the main aim. So
Yeah.
the whole point is to get people to recite properly, and we do. I mean, generally, we do need to raise the level of tajweed. I mean,
Mm.
the way people can improve their level. They sometimes, look at these guys and think, "Oh, I wish I had a voice like that." But you
Yeah.
can actually get there. And I'm not just saying that just to make people feel better. It's actually true, because I mean, I'm living proof, you could say. I went through that whole. I mean, I was just usual Desi. In
Yeah.
fact, I think my recitation was worse than your average Desi. I never went to. I didn't spend that much time going to mosque. We had
Mm.
a hafiz that used to come to the house, and you're a kid. You just mess about. You don't really pay
Yeah.
attention, just half the time
Mm.
trying to noise him up. So, so fun and games, fun and games.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I didn't really pay that much attention. So
Yeah.
when I remember when I first started to study, it was when I studied Arabic.
Yeah.
So at the age of 21, I realized my tajweed is really bad.
Mm.
Um, like very broken, doesn't
Mm.
sound good at all.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult. It was really tough because you're in a classroom, right? And and you had to recite in front of the class, and the
Mm.
teacher's correcting you, and it was embarrassing because I was
Yeah.
like one of the worst students. Um, and you look at other people and you think, man, their recitation's a lot better. That sound like bad, but
Yeah.
I just kept plugging away, like I learned the rules. I remember when we used to recite, I used to write down straight after my turn, I would write down where the mistakes were. Sometimes I'd ask the teacher, like if I didn't know, I'd say, like, what did I do wrong? And
Okay.
he'd say, well, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. I'd say, okay, right. So I'd write it down, I'd underline, where I'd got it wrong. And then I'd go away and I'd practice and improve. And that's it. And, over time, you just keep going and then you just get better and better. And it becomes like driving a car. You
Yeah.
don't think twice. It just, the recitation just flows and you just sound a lot better and you feel like reading it more because, it actually sounds nice. It sounds nice. So you actually want to read more.
Mm. Uh, you reminded me of the fact that my dad obviously had gone through his whole life. Came here when he was very young from Pakistan, started working early, didn't ever have any type of education. And at his late age, now in his 70s, said to my sister that, I wish I'd learned Quran and I wish I'd learned how to read properly. And subhanAllah, over the last year or so, has engaged in an online course. And now mashallah can read, alhamdulillah, to a good standard. But the point that I was trying to make is that many people might think or might be listening to us thinking, well, honky feather, why am I going to try and do something like this at this age? I'm past it, or me trying to pick up something like this is very difficult. Subhanallah, we're not talking about learning to read another language. We're not talking about trying to learn to read a random book. We're talking about reading the word of Allah.
Mm.
Sheikh, surely there is special type of um, support that comes for the person trying to learn the Quran, the recitation of the Quran, but also not only just support or the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make it easy for us. There's also a particular kind of reward for the person that's trying to improve their Quran. Can you maybe touch us a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so there's a hadith that says the one who recites the Quran, um, Mahir, who's good at reciting the Quran, is reciting it well, is with the Safat al-Kiram al-Barara. It's basically the noble ambassador angels, right? That's the reward. But the one who finds it difficult and stumbles through it, but keeps going with, even though they're finding difficulty, they get twice the reward.
Oh,
So there's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward everyone for every second, every muster of their energy that they use to read his book. And why are we reading this book? For God's pleasure. God will reward us, inshallah ta'ala, even if
oh,
we don't understand it. Even if you don't understand the book, I mean, most Muslims are not Arabs.
yeah,
If you don't understand it, because the hadith says that for every letter you get 10 rewards.
yeah.
And it says that I don't mean that alif lam mim is one letter, but alifun harf, mimun harf, lamun harf. That alif lam mim, just reading alif lam mim, I just said it twice there. It's 30 rewards.
So,
So I mean, in the course of just what we've been talking, I think I've mentioned it 3 times. That's 90 rewards just doing that. And for most scholars, they say these letters alif lam mim that begin the surahs
yeah,
like Sa'd, Yasin, Taha. Most scholars say that the knowledge of that is with God's, which means that to read something without knowing the meaning of it in the Quran, you'll still get reward for it.
oh,
So you're getting reward. If you're finding it difficult, you're getting twice the reward. It cleanses your heart. There's other hadith about how the angels will come down. So when you read the Quran, you're bringing down angels into your home, angels around yourself. It's just a win-win situation.
no doubt, no doubt. I think we've covered much of this question, Sheikh, but we've obviously touched upon why it's important. One of the big things you've mentioned is the fact that essentially we're changing the meaning. We don't want to be making sure that we're reading the meaning and not changing the meaning of what the Quran is saying is clearly an important, extremely important, probably one of the first reasons why it's important. Is there any other problems if we read without the Tajweed or any other reasons why it's really important to make sure we're on the right path when it comes to recitation?
Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us in the Quran to read with good recitation. Waratil Qur'ana tartila. Recite with beautified in a beautified way. So we are asked to do this in the Quran. There is a narration by, I think, Zayd bin Thabit, who talks about that, something along the lines of ensuring that the Quran is read the way it was revealed.
Oh,
So yeah, I mean, this is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is revelation and it's, remember, it's God's word.
mm,
So you cannot get better. You can read any book in the world, right, and benefit from it, no doubt. Some are really, bestsellers and stuff, but you cannot get away from the fact that this book is the book of God. It's the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala versus the word of man.
mm.
There's no no comparison whatsoever.
No. Sheikh, if somebody's listening to us and thinking, well, I don't know what level my recitation is at, um, what level of understanding do people need in order to join the course?
I think that anyone can really benefit. I mean, I did say in the trailer that it's not for advanced students of Tajweed. So somebody
Yeah.
who's, been studying with Qaris for a long time and done, countless courses in Tajweed and memorized quite a bit, and their recitation is good.
Yeah.
It's probably not for that type of person. I'm
Yep.
looking for people, you're your average person, right,
Mm.
who, knows the alphabet, reads the Quran, maybe a bit broken, or reads it and needs a bit of, fine tuning.
Mm.
So, I mean, I'm planning to go through all the major rules that we have, and also, like, if you have time, like, maybe go through some of the surahs that we've got,
Mm.
and the common surahs, and just show, look, where are the common mistakes that we're kind of making, so that people can know what to practice on.
Sheikh, just on that point, even for people out there who think that the recitation is actually good to a good standard, I think it's definitely extremely beneficial. I was repeatedly saying Rasulullah when I was doing the Qama or doing the Zan, and somebody said to me, "You're not realizing where your mistake is." And for the life of me, I didn't realize. And he was saying, it's a scene, you're saying Sod, you're saying Rasulullah, it's Rasulullah, it's picking up on small things which we become relaxed about, or effectively we just think we're doing it right because we've learned it maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Mm.
Um, and, or even elongating will just doing it a little bit, thinking that you've covered it. Again, people pointing out these kind of mistakes, you realize, well, hold on, actually, maybe I don't know all the things that I thought I knew. So actually, as much as we say that it's not for advance might be one thing, but actually you might think in your head you're advanced, but certainly even if you think you're at a decent standard, it'd be good. Sheikh, also one thing I wanted to ask
I mean,
was,
just on that point, Omar. So we had I syllabus, we had an advanced course, and so we decided that the advanced students, they've been studying for a while, they should also have to memorize, basic surahs,
yep,
and have a decent level of tajweed. Because if they're going to lead, a prayer somewhere, or they're
mm,
going to give a khutbah, or a reminder,
yep,
there's no point studying all this fiqh and hadith and all the rest of it if you can't even recite the surah properly,
yep,
or quote properly. So we made that a condition, and yes, some of the students were good, but a lot of them, I was actually quite surprised that their knowledge of the rules was quite deficient. So this is one of the reasons I'm actually doing this course, because I'd realized, I just thought, okay, fine, go and study it in X, Y, Z places.
yeah,
And there's plenty of books there, you should be able to navigate your way through. But we found, and these are good students, they're coming back, and when I'm asking them questions, they didn't know. So, and then obviously there was some issues with recitation. There were different levels. Some of them were very good, some of them kind of middle, some
yeah,
were bottom, but most actually needed some type of help. And there's a few that didn't. So this is one of the reasons. And also, someone pointed out to me, is that this is another reason I put the course together. But it's another provider of Tajweed and Quran, and he was just saying that why he focuses on it. And he said that, if you've got students of knowledge and they don't know, um, they're not they're learning everything else, but they're not learning how to read the book of Allah properly. It's a bit of a problem. And I said, you've got a point. You do have a point. What's stopped me in the past is that Tajweed is one of those things that it requires, to do it properly, you need a teacher, and you need to do it over a long period of time.
mm,
So I always thought, well, is there any point in doing a course on it? But it's from what I experienced with the students that I've
mm,
realized, no, there actually is a room even for us to actually go through the theoretical rules. But then I thought there has to be a practical element, which is why I thought, okay, can't listen to everyone for long periods, but everyone can read at least Surah Fatiha,
yeah,
and then we can start them off, tell them where they need to work on, so they can go off and continue with a teacher, but they know where they're kind of starting from, and they've got this as a frame of reference,
yeah,
of where the rules are. They can go back and they can refer back to it, inshallah.
inshallah.
That was the intention.
Alhamdulillah. If you've just joined us, alhamdulillah, with YouTube iSyllabus Live with Sheikh Ahmed Jamil, the topic in discussion today is Tajweed tips and the art of recitation. Tajweed rules explained in order for us to improve our recitation of Quran. This course, inshallah, begins on Saturday, 11th of May. Sessions 1 and 2 will be covered in that morning. The timing of the courses is 11 a.m. until 1:15 p.m. whenever they run on the Saturdays. So the Saturday 11th of May will be the first session. Second session will be Saturday the 18th of May, where sessions 3 and 4 are covered. And then the third and final one will be the 25th of May, where session 5, inshallah, will be covered. However, there will also be a Q&A session. If you've just joined us, then Sheikh Ahmed Jamil has also highlighted the fact that the purpose of this course, inshallah, will allow for anybody that enrolls in it to have their Surah Fatiha checked over with Sheikh for, to essentially confirm that you are following the course, ask any questions, and for Sheikh to rectify any mistakes, inshallah, that you may be making. I think that in itself might be enough of a reason, if for no other reason, that you think that you should join the course. Surah Fatiha is something which, inshallah, if you're living for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, then you're going to recite it minimum X amount of times per day. So I think having just even Surah Fatiha rectified in itself, no doubt, will be of benefit, inshallah, great benefit to everyone to do.
Actually, I did a course. It was the tafsir of the last 10 surahs. This was I think a year ago or something, called the
Uh-huh.
beginning and the end, and I did Fatiha as well. And I remember I calculated, how many times you would read kind of Fatiha, just on an average kind of age span. Just the Salah. I was looking at just the Salah because you read it in every rak'ah of Salah, isn't it? It was like 500,000 times. And then if you add in all the other times you read it out with the Salah, I mean, you're probably between 500,000 and 1 million in an average lifespan.
Smart.
Yeah.
I can't lie. I did think for a split second that I was going to try and calculate the amount of time, but I realized very quickly that I wasn't going to be able to. But there you go. If subhanAllah, if 500,000 times you're reading that, but even if you're joining this course just to rectify that one thing, then it has to be the best £39 that you're going to spend, or if you don't get the early bird price, then the best £49, inshallah, that we're going to spend. Um, Sheikh Amar's been talking to us through about the course and what it entails and the importance of it, and just exactly what we're meaning when we're talking about Tajweed. Sheikh, one of the things I want to discuss with you was why is it important that we try and use a teacher as opposed to just trying to read it from a book and learn from a book?
Um, it's a bit like driving a car. You need an instructor to kind of tell you, okay, now you need to go into second gear now. Okay, I think you're second gear a bit too much. Put the clutch down. You need
Yep.
somebody to show you the ropes, because the problem with Tajweed is like you can listen to someone and you think that you're reading it like that person. You think, okay, I'm just listening to Sudais, right? And I'm reading it like Sudais. And even in your mind, right, you're copying his melody. You might be calling it
Yep.
copying his melody, but you're actually not copying his Tajweed,
Mhm.
because you're not pronouncing the letter from the right place or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so you can almost dupe yourself into thinking you're doing okay. But it's only
Mhm.
when someone listens to you and says, by the way, like you said, you're saying sod instead of seen,
Yeah.
right? You're like, oh, am I? Right. So you actually need somebody to be able to help you
Yeah.
uh, check over. And that's why when people memorize Quran, you see them, isn't it? They go to the teacher and recite it to the teacher,
Yeah.
and then teacher corrects them here, there, whatever. So you
Mhm.
actually do need a teacher. And also remember, the Prophet ﷺ had a teacher, which was
Awesome.
Jibreel alayhi salam. So Jibreel alayhi salam taught the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the
Mhm.
Prophet ﷺ taught the Sahaba. Then the Sahaba taught the next generation. So this is something which is taught from generation to generation. You can't just get an app and well, get AI and put your put AI in and put a video up yourself reading Surah Fatiha like Sudais. You probably can now.
You probably could. SubhanAllah. Okay, now, SubhanAllah, one of the things I wanted to ask about was we spoke about the importance of it. We've spoken about learning it, why it's important to learn it, what we can gain from it. There'll be many people, SubhanAllah, who have young children, and the children are going through this process of learning at masjid. They're going through the process of learning with their own qari. Some people have this feeling, Sheikh, that, well, that boat's just sailed for me, and it's a bit embarrassing. What would you say to anybody that's sitting on that fence?
I would say that, look, this is a way of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So if your salah's not right, fix it. If your tajweed's not right, fix it. I mean, It's quite amazing. I always find it quite amazing, you know, when you see convert scholars.
Mm.
So I mean, we've got we've got a couple that have taught Rise syllabus. You've got Sheikh Amin Buxton, you've got Sheikh Idris Watts, Sheikh Bilal Brown. These are people who are not Muslim, right? So they had zero Arabic. They were not taught it as kids.
Mm.
They become Muslim. They obviously have a zeal to learn. They go off to learn Arabic, and then you hear them read Salah, and they just sound like Arabs, you
Yeah.
know. So these are people who've memorized, who have learned Quran, sorry, as adults. But
Mm.
the thing is, it's going to benefit you for the rest of your life, and also that in the Quran, um, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Ya Rabbi, inna qawmi, O my Lord, my people, اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا." They've taken this, they've deserted this Quran. So we don't want to be of those people who have deserted the Quran. And there's so much reward, like I said before, of reading it. And also, if you, for example, when people die, you know, people do a khatam, so they'll read Quran for the deceased. You want to be able to do that for your loved ones. You want to be able to do these things. Um, and then obviously, as you said, there's certain things we do all the time. Surah Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, you know, the quls, all that kind of stuff, which is needed on a daily basis. So there's no reason to not start at any time. You know, if you were not into, I don't know, tech or something, but
Yeah.
you know, your business, everyone's moving on, you know, with tech, you what do? You just learn the skill, isn't it? Something
Yeah.
new comes out, you don't know how to use it, you take some time out how to learn it. If you've not been driving a car and you think I'm 40 now, what's the point now? Just keep taking public transport. But it's benefit if you learn. You're still going to be able to use it for the next 20, 30 years. And there's lots of people who have actually done this in their older age. I mean,
Mm.
this is not like, you know, 300 years ago people did. No, people in our lifetime have done this. I mean, there's a number of aunties I know. In fact, there's one who's my relative. She must be just turning 60.
Mm.
And she just decided in her mid 50s that I'm going to memorize the Quran. She took 5 years and she's
Yeah.
memorized Quran, you know. Her kids are older. She's been going to these like tafsir lessons for years and says, look, you know, I want to learn. I want to memorize Allah's book. Every day she'd spend a couple hours, 5 years, and she's 60. She's memorized the Quran. That's not the first auntie I've heard of. Just in our city, I'm talking about just Glasgow.
Mm.
There, I know and there must be more. I just know of about, I think, half a dozen aunties, and these are women in their 50s and 60s who have memorized the Quran over a number of years. Um, just made a decision. Why not? You know, this is a book of Allah. I'm going to just, you know, see how much I can push myself. And I spoke to one of the aunties. It's at a wedding, and I said to her, you know, how did you do it? And she
Mm.
just said, she goes, we just started with Surah Baqarah and we thought, no, we're never going to be able to Surah Baqarah, but let's just see how we get on.
Mm.
And there's four of them and they would check in with each other. And then they did Surah Baqarah and they said, oh my God, we've done Surah Baqarah, so happy. Then they said, let's keep going, let's do it. And then,
Mm.
you know, over a number of years, they memorized the Quran. I know people who have memorized the Quran and then gone on to become qaris.
SubhanAllah.
Not only have they memorized Quran, they've
Mm.
then went, no, I want to be even better. I want to nail the science. They've gone off to study with like qadis, become qadis. I know
Wow.
one guy, I think he was in his 60s or 70s. He learned all 10 recitations, the 10
Wow.
ways of
Wow.
reading. You know, so this is not one or two people or three people that have done this. This is you know, the sky is your limit. And there's nothing better you can do with your time by reading God's words. I mean,
No doubt. I mean, subhanAllah, I think we come back to a point that we made earlier on, that this is not like trying to learn a course or a new language or a different book. Um, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put ease in something if we genuinely seek it, and we seek it with that genuineness, and we go to the table with a sincere heart and make sincere effort, and constant effort. then no doubt, inshallah, that's why we're hearing that people of 56 years old are able to memorize a book of this size. Trying to get them to memorize a book that's not the Quran definitely wouldn't have been as easy. But we know that because the Quran tells us that, someone. Sheikh,
Yeah, and the
do
thing is,
you-
and remember, they're doing it for the next life because we know the real life is the life to come. This is their retirement package. This is their
Mm,
investment for their eternal life. This is why they're doing it. They're doing it for God's
no
pleasure.
doubt. No doubt. The last thing that I wanted to ask you about, sorry, was there'll be people that are listening who think that, like we've just said, they don't really have any engagement with the Quran out with Ramadan. They might be at a place where they think, well, I don't really do much, I don't really engage much, I don't really know much. Why is this such an important starting point for them then?
I think because by doing this, if you're, it's like, my son, right? I took him to football, and initially he wasn't into it. Why? Because all the other kids were better.
Mhm.
Because he's looking at them thinking I'm rubbish, right? But the thing is, as he kept going and
Yeah.
got better and better, he started to enjoy it more because now his level's gone up. So when your
Yeah.
level's poor, right, you just think, I sound terrible, right? I just forget it, right? But I mean, obviously Shaitan's going to be very happy, but
Yeah.
you're not supposed to take that attitude. The thing is, that's you today, but that doesn't necessarily mean that will be you in a year's time or 2 years' time or 3 years' time. This is your decision now. You can decide whether you want to stay like that for the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life, just no progress, just stay where you are. Or are you going to make a decision that, hold on a second, I'm going to put a wee bit of time in and effort. Because see, this is not something you can do overnight anyway. It's
Yeah.
something that you will do slowly but consistently. It's just a matter of being patient with it. You're just doing it slowly every day, a little amount, and over a period of time, you don't realize it's like that drop. You put a drop in,
Mm.
one drop does nothing. Over a year, it's 365 drops. So it's a very slow process. And by doing something like this, it might push you to say, something, actually, that's not as hard as I thought. It's
Mm.
actually, I can actually do this, and maybe might motivate you, maybe might help you to read a bit more, to try to practice a bit more.
No doubt, inshallah. Well, I think as you were speaking there, Shay, it came to me that, as the children of Adam alayhi salam, we're meant to be what's described as one of the best of creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the bar isn't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't expect for us to be perfect in everything or be the best at everything. But certainly he hasn't expected for us to just sit and be comfortable where we are and not push ourselves and not strive. Half of the effort or half of the test comes from putting in the effort, pushing ourselves to places where we're not so comfortable, and doing it for the sake of Allah. So certainly, from what I've taken from everything you've just said there at the end, is that pushing yourselves, don't just regardless of whatever age you might be, how young you might be, or how old you might be, or how good you think you are, or how good you don't think you are. Um, make sincere intention, inshallah, and take the step. You just don't know what doors might open for us. But over and above that, there certainly is an expectancy on our parts to make sure, inshallah, that we're at a good level. And this is what the course offers. Sheikh, I'm going to come to you for any last remarks, but I want to just highlight for any of the people that have just joined us that this is our Tajweed tips course. And the art of recitation is essentially what the focus of this course will be, focusing on Tajweed rules, explaining how we can improve the recitation of the Quran. And the course itself will be over 3 sessions, starting from Saturday, the 11th of May, right through to Saturday, the 18th of May, and then the final session on Saturday, the 25th of May. On each of the mornings, the course will run from 11 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. And the price for the course, inshallah, is £39 if you catch the early bird, or is £49. And you can go onto the website at www.isyllabus.org, where inshallah you can join and sign up for that. But like we said earlier on, one of the key elements and one of the key aspects, inshallah, to the course is having the ability to have Sheikh listen to your Fatiha, go through it with you, and inshallah make sure that you have no mistakes in that. Go over the Tajweed rules to make sure that that is in check. And inshallah, that can be a great starting point for us going forward thereon. And any questions that you have can actually be covered in the Q&A session on week 3 on Saturday, the 25th of May. So this is an unbelievable opportunity, inshallah, and we would encourage everyone to get involved. Sheikh, thank you, as always, for taking out your time. Is there any closing remarks you'd like to make for anyone listening or anyone that's just joined?
Yeah, so just on top of what you're saying, I mean, it is 11 to 1:15, but there'll be plenty of breaks. So it's not
Okay.
like just in case you think I'm going to be talking for 2 hours.
Okay.
I won't be. There'll be plenty of breaks, and inshallah ta'ala, we'll go through. I'm going to try and simplify it as much as I can because I know it can become technical. And sometimes when I'm reading it as well, I'm just like, because they start going on about your molar teeth and your incisors, and you have to start learning where your teeth are before you can figure out what the book's trying to say. You're like, which one's that again? So I'm going to try and like just avoid anything which can maybe confuse people. Try to make it as simple, and also from my experience of when I overcame my mistakes, like what are the tips that I remember,
Mm.
from that time? What are the things I used to do to improve my Tajweed? So I think those little kind of personal hacks that I had myself, I'll share that as well, so that people can, hopefully give them some guidance of how to kind of improve, inshallah ta'ala. And then, as you said, everyone will have the opportunity to read the Fatiha. But obviously, I chose Fatiha because people read it in the prayers, and it's the most important thing you can read in your prayers. For example, in the Shafi school, if your if you make certain mistakes in your Fatiha, it actually invalidates the
Yeah.
Fatiha and invalidates the prayer. So that's quite critical, getting that down.
Yeah.
And then from there, people can, inshallah, spring forth and go and improve it from there, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you, as always, to Sheikh Ahmed Jamil for taking out his time for us, inshallah. To all of our viewers, thank you also for joining us. You've been watching YouTube iSyllabus Live. Please visit the website www.isyllabus.org. That's where you can, inshallah, visit and sign yourself up to the course. But more importantly, regardless of whether or not you're sitting on the fence or whether you might be signing up or not, please share it with family, share it with friends, share it with loved ones. You just don't know who you might be benefiting, inshallah. So please sign up, get yourself there, and drag along as many people as you can. As always, Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for joining. And inshallah, until the next time, wassalamu rahmatullah, Sheikh, Jazakallah khair, and inshallah, see you soon.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.